Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today I want to talk a little bit about Delhi. I want to bring you guys a build order for the Delhi Sultanate and how you can play them with Feudal Age timing attack and just try to win your games a little bit quicker than most people might do. As usual, the build order is linked in the description with upgrade notation and all the small optimizations as well. We'll run through them here in this video. Basically what you want to start off by doing is you want to try to get 5 villagers on the straggler tree, and then one of your villagers go to the berries. You want to get the upgrades immediately from the mill, and then you want to get the mosque and house after. First villager that comes out of the TC here is going to be going to build the house. The reason you don't want to start with the mosque is because if you're not relying on one of your first 2 villas here to get a house, then you will have some idle time because your TC will be pop capped. Your scout will go pretty aggressive. Usually with the Delhi, we don't need sheep because we are on the berries, and therefore you can go very aggressively around your opponent's base, grab some of their safe sheep, and then you can go back out and scout the rest of the map. It's also a good opportunity to check out if you're being dog age rushed, which in this case against English is quite possible. A lot of civs do that against Delhi because they want to limit their gold or berry access, and it can usually be a pretty big problem for Delhi to have that going on in the beginning of the game. From the mill, you queue wheelbarrow, you queue survival techniques. From the mosque, you queue efficient production, and you queue piety. When you get to the feudal age, you instantly want to go ahead and cancel this one. But don't worry, you save your progress on the upgrades, and then you just head into sanctity. You want to go up to 8 villagers on the berries, and your 9th villager will be going to gold together with 2 more, so that you have an 8-3 split. The rest of your villas will be going on wood until you have about 12 on wood. As you can see here, we're just scouting aggressively. We knew that his scout was going to go north, so we went south instead, so we can get some of the sheep down here, so we don't start trailing our opponent. Now, last villager here will come out in the gold. One thing you want to remember with Delhi is always queue the upgrades. The upgrades are noted in the build order that is linked in the description, so you can see what order of the upgrades you want to go for. But basically, you always want to queue every single upgrade you can go for. It's usually not that complicated, but try to think of upgrades as queue the necessary ones that you might need, and then you can use your scholars inside the barracks, stables, archery ranges, and then once you have the most necessary ones, let's say you have a standing army in Castle Age, and you upgrade them with veterancy, you can use your scholars inside, they upgrade quicker, but then after that you just want to focus on making units again. Try to be smart about not having too many different kinds of units. Try to keep your compositions very simple so you don't have to upgrade tons of different units, because it does take a long time. When it comes to scholars, we're only going to get 2 scholars here, and we want to pull away from our gold here at about 3770 in our gold vein, and then we keep it at 2 scholars until we have our sacred sites so we can start producing more. We don't want to gather gold with Delhi, we just want to get the gold for another scholar, and then that's pretty much it. The rest of our gold will be coming from sacred sites. That gold will be used on getting up to 4 or 5-ish scholars on the mosque. And then you're going to be using the rest of that gold in a market to try to just balance out your economy by purchasing whatever resources you might need to feel fully produced. And there's the reason Delhi is one of the best civs for playing feudal age aggression, because the market simply boosts your economy so much that your production can just have so much more uptime. We dropped off our sheep here. We're now aging up, and we are aging up with our berry vills here. 4 berry vills. You're going to be aging up at about 230. You want to get that going, and then afterwards you're just going to focus on getting your wood. You're going to need a lot of wood with Delhi. Some people go double blacksmith. We're going to go with a single blacksmith opener into stable, into archery range. You need about 5 per archery range on wood, and I think 2 per stable, and then the rest is just going to be food. You also need wood to, of course, make walls around the sacred sites. When you're walling your sacred sites, don't try to wall every single sacred site, because it's taking away resources and idle time on your military units that you could have otherwise spent on attacking and making more units. So only wall the ones that are far away. For example, here on this map, as you can see, we have 2 very close sacred sites here. No point in walling them, because we're going to have our military in this area instead of the one down here. So this one will be walled quite quickly, so we can focus more on the top ones. That's how we want to be going about that. Usually you don't want to be making spearmen, you want to be making Ghazi raiders into archers, and sometimes you don't even want to make archers. It depends on how your opponent's playing it. We're going to avoid spearmen because spearmen is not really that good of a way to play aggression. We want to play with a cavalry and archer composition. If you play with spears, you would do that against knight civs like French Rus. But that is pretty much it. Too many spears is a problem because they're so easy to counter, and they have a very low uptime on their damage. So try to keep it low on the spearman count, only necessary amounts. When you get to the feudal age, of course, you want to queue all of your upgrades. You want to just queue the next ones here. You're going to survival techniques, horticulture, and then you can get your pro scouts. If you're a really good player, you can go ahead and make 2 more scouts in the feudal age once you have your pro scouts tech, and then you can start grabbing your opponent's deer. I would advise that you focus on just getting Sanctity as quick as possible, and then just queue up every other upgrade. And then from there on out, you're just going to get that going. You'll move your scholars out about 650 to 7 minutes in, and then you start capping the sacred sites. You want to cap the sacred sites as quickly as possible so that you can have more resources coming in. Every sacred site is a bunch of villagers extra, so think of the sacred sites as eco boosts. You need them 100% of the time. It's your #1 goal in the feudal age to make sure that you have uptime on your sacred sites. Now we have a stable, now we have an archer range and a blacksmith going. The blacksmith tech you want to be getting is steel arrow. You want to get iron undermesh, so the +1 ranged ones. Start with the +1 ranged attack. If you're not going to go into archers at all, if you're going to do a double stable opener or whatever, then you can start with iron undermesh and get the +1 ranged armor. But you definitely don't want to prioritize the melee ones. The archers benefit much more from the ranged upgrades, and so does your melee units from the ranged armor. As I said before, just try to get all the upgrades going. There's not really any point in trying to, you know, go through all of the upgrades. You just get them. Then with your first few units, remember you are playing Delhi, so you want to play very aggressively. Those few first archers here, try to keep them a little bit defensive. You'll see in a moment why that is. You can see the king is camping out here, and archers don't do super well against the king. Gaza raiders do fine. So again, we want to watch out here that we don't get our first units taken out. We do lose 1 archer here, I believe. As you can see, I'm going to be walling this side up here, down here, and then the ones here in the top, I'm not going to. From the blacksmith, your first upgrade will be coming through at 8 minutes. So that's going to be steel arrow. And then you're going to have your second upgrade coming through at about 11 minutes, if not a little bit before. It sort of depends on how your sacred sites capture is going. So here I don't pull the scholars just yet because I was very focused on getting this king taken down. But then I pull the scholars right after and I start going out on the sacred sites, as you can see here. So you can pull them at 650. There's no point pulling them if you don't have map control, because then you just lose them. So if you're being rushed or something, try to keep them back for a little bit more, put them inside the production buildings, and then you should be able to build up enough army to defend against a rush or something. And then, of course, afterwards, you just stick to the strat, you go out, you grab the sacred sites, so that you can get that income. I would advise when you play Delhi, sometimes to not go castle. It's not the main goal of the strat to go castle age. And the reason is your units scale really well, but you also are incredibly slow early castle. So unless you have a really good timing, let's say with man-at-arms or something, where you don't need an upgrade first, then you're going to be absolutely fine playing castle age. But if you have a big Gazi Raider and Archer army, you don't want to go castle age necessarily if you can choose not to. If you're forced to, of course, and your opponent's turtling and you can't break through, then it is what it is. But ideally, with this strategy, we try to stick it to feudal age. We try to macro the best we can, spend all of our resources on units, and not float at all. We just want to fully produce all of the time. The reason that is very important is because that is what the Delhi is good at. Keep producing, and at some point, I mean, it can't really go wrong for you unless you purposely take bad fights. Alright. So we have the first Gazi Raiders here. We are up to 8 Gazis before 9 minutes. And this is really good for that early map control. You can see the king here is trying to decap one of our sites here, trying to go for the scholar. And we can keep that map control in check because we have so much mobility. That's the really cool thing about playing with the Delhi is your units are very fast. They're very effective. Gazi Raiders are a quite high quality unit that can take out both man-at-arms, knights, horsemen. I mean, pretty much any unit, unless it's like spearmen in mass. And so you're going to be absolutely fine running mainly Gas Raiders. That's also why you see I went for a second stable here, and now actually a third stable, because my opponent is not playing Spearman Horseman, he's playing Archer Spear. So you can see I adapted here. Instead of going double stable and double archer, I went triple stable and one archer range. I only need 10 archers to take out the spears. Of course, you can keep making archers, but again, we only need the 10-11 archers to one-shot the Spearmen so our Gas Raiders can get through. Again, we want to be adaptable when we play, but we also don't want to stray too far away from the main comp. And so it's more of a balance of how many archers to Gazis do you have. If your opponent's playing 50-50 Spearman Archer, you might want to include more archers. But if it's like 10% Spearman, rest is longbows, like this, then you definitely just stick to mass Gazi. 10 Spearmen won't kill all this. Always stick to the pocket resources. You can eat the sheep early on to try not to have too much downtime on your food. A big problem with many daily players is that they lose out on their food. Let's say they exhaust their berries, they don't go to sheep, then they start going a really far distance to the deer, for example, and they have a really low uptime on their food income for a while, and it means that they start floating wood, and then they have a big problem with macro in general. You want to do it sort of like a split, so maybe half your food will just go to a pocket resources and the other half stick to sheep, but try not to have your economy locked down because you're going out onto a pocket resource, because you have nothing left safe. And that's another argument for not eating sheep early. If you're under a lot of pressure, try to keep your sheep for later. And while you have the map control, even though you might lose it later, just try to stick to the outside resources so you can go back and eat the sheep when you need it. So yeah, think of your sheep as more of like a fine balance between pocket resources and your safe berries. More of like a transitional food source. When it comes to macro, we have had about 22 to 15 here. We're going very food heavy, and kept it pretty wood heavy now, adding in the second archer range. I'm probably going to get a little bit of flack here from not showing the villager splits. A lot of people really want to see that. Again, you can see that in the build order, and then as long as you understand how many you need per building, you don't really need to see the splits. So you can use the RE4 production calculator for that, and then you should be able to think about how much you need per production building in terms of your villager splits. So before you guys critique me for not having shown the macros, try to take a look at that first. See if you can learn it yourself, so you're not depending on a video showing you exactly how each villager split is, because it's not really relevant. Your games will be different from this one. Try to understand why the splits are the way they are, so that you can do your own. Anyways, that was my little rant on people commenting on my videos. So yeah, now we're pushing. We have a massive military advantage. We are 12 minutes in. We have 28 Gazi Raiders, 23 archers. The whole way we got that many units was simply just by building this market. And then every time we had gold, we bought resources and we added in more production. So we have 5 production buildings right now. These buildings here are pretty much non-stop producing, and then they're just being rallied to the front. And then when your opponent moves too far out and you can catch them, that's where you go for it. And then afterward, you capitalize off it by going double down, and then you go into their base and try to kill everything. You want to make sure you have your upgrade advantages. Remember, about 11 minutes is where you should have both your ranged upgrades. So now your archers are working very well. They're fully effective, and your Gazi can also start to dive towers and maybe fight archer bolts and stuff without taking too much damage. So try to keep your timing at around the 11th minute mark. And if you're going to fight with a lot of archers against something like maybe archers from the opponent or something, where you just want better effectiveness from your archers, 8 minutes is your first timing, a small timing, some would say. Now you just go in. We have the ranged armor. They do have ranged attack, but if we didn't have the ranged armor, we would probably lose way more here than we should have. So again, we're absolutely fine here. We're just taking out the vills. We take out the maid army. We're not really super focused on the longbows. Again, we just wanted to get the villager kills so we can end this game. So yeah, that's how you do it. Stick to the pocket resources. Try to keep things simple. Just fully produce. If you end up in a situation where you can't dive them because they have been playing very defensively, just try to go Castle Age. A lot of people play 2C White Tower with English. This build is absolutely fine going up against that, but in that case, when you're up against it, you just say, okay, I've got the sacred sites, they're staying in their base, I go castle. Easy peasy. Then you take sites, and you make keeps and stuff. And from there, you should be able to outboom. You have your eco and your gold income and your relics and the gold from the sacred sites. And so your eco is going to be very strong once you have your upgrades going. So lots of scholars. Keep balancing out the eco with the market, and your castlate should be absolutely fine. All right. That's pretty much it for this guide. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Check out the build order in the description with all of the macro splits, the upgrade notation, and just the early 7-8 minutes of the whole build. And good luck on your games. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section. And you can also hit me up for coaching on my Discord or in the Discord server that is also linked in the description. All right, ciao. Have a good day.